see if I can.
Hey, my name is Justin Coe, and this is the Son of Egg podcast. And we have a special guest. Some of you guys may know, but for those that don't, can you give a brief introduction of yourself?
Sure. I'm Jammella Anderson. I am the founder of the Free Food Fridge program in Albany, and actually the Greater Capital Region. And I am an activist and a yoga teacher and a doula.
Nice, nice. So Jamella's been making some waves over the past year now, over a year. And the pandemic has created needs definitely in the area and pre-pandemic. Mm-hmm. But can you just talk about your story and how this all happened?
Yeah. So I don't know where to start. So I grew up in this area. I grew up with, a single parent household, definitely like food and money insecure. So I, know what it's like to go without. And I guess that sort of like kind of kickstarted me wanting to do more activism. So when the pandemic hit, I had just like gotten the opportunity to teach more yoga. I got more like birth clients, sorry, my brain is like not working right now. Let me take a deep breath.
It's early right now. It's
Let me take another sip of coffee. Okay, I'm back. So yeah, the pandemic hit and I'd gotten a lot of new opportunities for jobs. So I actually quit the nonprofit that I was working for. And I loved it, but when you just know. So I was like, all right, time to bounce. And literally the next day, like after I quit, the pandemic like shut down everything. So I like lost all these job opportunities that I had gotten. And I'd made a promise to myself that I said I was going to work 80% for myself by the end of 2020. So I was like, oh, this is like perfect timing. And then the pandemic hit and I was like, just kidding. So that was really rough. And then I was right at the time of like Breonna Taylor and George Floyd's deaths really getting a lot of media attention. And so I was like, well, I have this opportunity now to like participate in a lot of the activism and just like getting my feet to the ground and like actually like speaking up about our experiences as Black people. Cause now finally everyone's listening, which is like, okay, like it took long enough. So I started getting way more vocal and it, honestly just like on Instagram and Facebook. And then people started reaching out to me and trying to collaborate with me and wanting to help raise money for Black and brown businesses within Albany. So we started doing that and we raised like 20 grand, like right out the gate. And that was really cool. And to date, we've raised almost $250,000 just like in total with like mini fundraisers, larger fundraisers, and then for the Food Fridge program. But then, I always say like, a lot of the fundraising I was doing, it wasn't necessarily performative, but like the people who were like buying into the fundraisers were doing it as like, it was like performative. So I was like, okay, well, how can we turn that into more action? And I'd been wanting to work with food insecure folks again, because that's, I'm very privy to that. Like I have experienced it. I know what it's like. And definitely seeing a direct impact of the pandemic exacerbating food insecurity in the area. And a lot of the kids, like that's really where it starts. I feel like when you like look at kids and you see kids going without, like it really is like a wake up call. So it's like, obviously I've already had the wake up call, but it's just like, again, now we have way more people going without, way more families, way more kids, especially not having access to school and being able to go to school where a lot of kids do eat. I know that's where I ate a lot of my food was at school. So there's just like not that extra resource. And so I was like, okay, like what can we do? And I put the word out about the Fridge program. I was just like, hey, this is going on in other places. How can I replicate it here in Albany, but do it in a way that will have a bigger impact because Albany is pretty small. So, but it's small and big, right? So there's like a lot of people here, but like little pockets and things. And it's spread out, it's sprawling in a different way than like where you go to Troy. Sorry, I keep hitting the table. Then when you like go to Troy, and Troy is like, it's like pretty small just in general. And it's like pretty condensed. So I put out the word. I said, hey, can we do this? And people are like, yeah. And like within 2 days, we got 2 fridges from Lowe's. And then I got a bunch of farmers and restaurants on board. And then like literally it took off from there. I worked with the free school to get the first fridge. And they were the first fridge location. And that was like that process was really frustrating because I asked so many people. Should I stop talking?
No, keep going.
Okay.
We love it.
Okay.
Oh, yeah, but it'll be fine.
Okay.
Kind of makes
it's the dramatic. So I had gotten like I don't know. I got so many no's, but I'm just like, I don't know. I'm like, a no is like halfway to a yes. Like, I'm like, who cares? So I just kept asking people, and I'm like, well, I have to like tell people, I'm like, there's food insecurity happening like right in your neighborhood. Like, we have to do something. People are like, yes, but what if? And I'm like, no, we can do it. It'll happen. It'll work. And finally, Deirdre said yes. And like I always say, like that yes, like really changed my life and changed a lot of other people's lives, because it took that one fridge location at Elm Street to like show other people the impact it had. And it was an immediate impact. And the media got attention, like media got it came to their attention early on, even before we put the fridge out. And that was really cool. So like I basically was just like, they were like, whenever you're ready, just text us and we'll come and we'll like interview you at the first fridge. And the Honest Way Food Co-op was like the first big sponsor. Alex and Deanna and Amy are three of the most incredible people that I've ever worked with. And I always ask them, like, when are you going to say no to me? And they're like, hopefully never. So they just like, they always want to work with me, and they always are like trying to like push forward movement and like really call in their community of people and their network. So because of like those, like all of those people, we were able to do it. And then, yeah, it just took off from there. And I like have no real way to calculate how much food we've actually served, but I know it's been like thousands and thousands of pounds of food. And yeah, it's been really overwhelming, but like really beautiful. And people always ask me like, how did you know the project was gonna work? And I was like, I didn't. I just tried it, and like it happened.
Halfway is just doing it.
Yeah,
starting.
Yeah, and I'm just like, I don't know. People are like, well, what if they steal, or what if they this, or what if people are like, what if they steal the refrigerator? So I was like, honestly, if someone steals a refrigerator, they probably need it way more than any of us do. So like, they can have it, and we'll just get another one. It's just like, it's not. Yeah, and you can't steal food. Like, there's just like...
You can't let that stop you from doing it.
Right, exactly. And so it's just like, how do there's like all of this destigmatization of food insecurity, of people who are taking food. Like, I grew up in a place where it was predominantly white, and people think that poor is black. Like, that was like the narrative that like I grew up around. And that was really frustrating, because that's not true, right? It's just like, we live in an area where we have like the inner city, there's... the socioeconomic status is much more clear and much more abundant in the black and brown neighborhoods, because of redlining, because of systemic oppression, because of like all of these things that our country is based in and based on. And so it's like, people are like, well, the government isn't working. I'm like, no, government's working exactly how it should. Like, the way the cities are set up, the way that cities are set up on a hill, like, it's all intentional. And so thinking about even just like the South End, like the governor's mansion's at the top of the hill, and you go down the hill, and it's like nothing, like absolutely nothing. So it's like, it is like physical. If you don't believe it when you see it, like, there is physical evidence, and you can pull up old city maps and like literally see the redlining around the different neighborhoods. So yeah, it was just time to take action. And having a black person doesn't mean that like I'm not doing wrong, right? Like, there's still the saviorism complex, and like the like acts of saviorism, where we often see it with white people, where it's like white saviorism, but like, I'm not necessarily from the neighborhoods where the fridges are. So to do my due diligence and to actually like do right by the people who are experiencing more food insecurity, who are in neighborhoods experiencing a food apartheid, it's important that I am actually communicating with them. So when people are like, well, don't you have volunteers? I'm like, I do, but like, it's just as important for me to be on the ground, putting food in there, talking to the community members, talking to the places where the fridges are, so that we all have this like constant communication about what's happening and what people need and like what we're seeing. And it's really nice. It's made me a much bigger part of the communities that I'm not necessarily living in. And so now it's just like, I don't know, you walk around and it's like, I don't know, it feels like a bigger sense of community around Albany now, like, especially like having people like you, and like, just like the younger folks who are like starting businesses and out talking more, and like having rallies, and just like people actually amplifying each other, right? It's not just like white people amplifying black voices. It's like brown people and black people amplifying each other's voices. And that's how we create change. And I think like the proof is in the pudding. Like, we've done a lot in the past year collectively. And so like, I always say like, this is just the beginning, but like, it really is just the beginning. There's so much more coming, and there's like so much more work that has to be done. So this is just like a tiny, tiny bit of that. And I'm happy to do it.
Yeah, so you're up to 6 fridges.
Yep. And
The seventh one.
The seventh one is
working.
actually going to the Boys and Girls Club. It's actually being painted right now. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
So for those that don't know, our restaurant's located on Lark and Madison in Albany, but there's a fridge right by in your own voices.
Yeah, in our own voices at 245 Lark
240
Street. Mm-hmm.
Lark Street. Can we go over certain locations that people can find the?
Yep. So 245 Lark Street is the one. It's directly across the street from Pint Sized. The newest one that's not out yet will be at the Boys and Girls Club, which is on Delaware, where Delaware, I think, and Dana meet. I think that's the cross
as
street.
of May 13th.
As of May 13th, yeah.
Right now,
so
yes.
It could be hopefully in the next week. Yes, 2021. And then there's one at 488 Broadway, which is in front of Albany Center Gallery, and that's in on the side of the arcade building. There's one at Albany Barn, which is 56 2nd Street. There's one in front of the Radix Center, which is the ecological farm that's in the South End, right down the street from Youth FX, and that is 153 Grand Street, but it's technically on Arch Street, but the address of the place is on Grand. And there's one at 621 River Street in Troy. And I think that's it. Oh, and Elm. I can't believe I forgot that.
Oh. Sorry for that. I think we're back at the Elm Street.
Oh, yeah. 8 Elm Street, which is where the first fridge was, or is. And that one's in front of the free school.
Nice. So how can people get involved? For those that want to get involved, what are your needs?
What are our
how
needs?
They can get involved?
So our needs right now are always obviously money. We have a Patreon. It's just patreon.com/freefoodfridgealbany. You can do our PayPal, which is freefoodfridgealbany@gmail.com. And we actually are pretty good with volunteers stocking and stuff, although we could always use more. So having people stock once a week, once a month, but on a regular schedule is really great. And we have to approve all the donations that come in. So just shoot us a message hey, I've got this. We don't take things from the house. We don't take people's personal food items. But we, if you work in a food safe kitchen, if you work at a restaurant, it has to come from somewhere where there's already a set of checks and balances in the business. And so that's super important. And then people to regularly clean the fridges, because they do get kind of messy, especially in the summer, because we put fresh food from the ground. Literally we'll pull beets out of the ground and put them in the fridge. So the fridges get really dirty. So we need people to help clean. And we also need help to house the fridges. So we need shelters for them. I've had a couple people say that they're going to build them, but it's been didn't happen. So a little, I always picture a little house with a sloping shed top.
So from the elements, to protect it from the elements.
They were all out in the winter and they did fine, but I don't want to have to get any people working on them, because they're all new fridges. They're all only less than a year old, so I don't want to have to call in maintenance to fix a fridge, because they're all new. Mm-hmm. So that would be very, very helpful.
So they can DM you at Free Food Fridge
Albany. On Instagram.
Could we say that again?
Free Food Fridge Albany on Instagram.
Nice. And then say your Patreon again.
Patreon.com/freefoodfridgealbany.
Food Fridge. Yeah, it's very simple. I actually donate myself monthly, but if you can just set it and it does auto payments if you have disposable income.
Mm-hmm. Even $1. Yeah, even $1. The first 2 Patreons I had were $1 and $2. Mm-hmm. And now we're up to $5,600, which is insane. There's 500 patrons, people who have never met us are donating. But that will ensure that we can hire people. I want to hire people at a rate that is livable, and make sure that the people that we're calling in, people deserve to get paid. We understand capitalism is gouging the people who work at the bottom, and we want to make sure that that's not the case. And that goes for paying artists that paint the fridges, paying artists that we collaborate with. There are many collaborations that have come from this project, and I want to keep doing that. So it's not just Jammella Anderson doing this collaboration. It's no, the fridge, Free Food Fridge Albany is doing the collaboration. And that way it's just I want people to know that yes, I am behind it, but like it really is like the call of the community. Like that's who's doing
For
it.
sure. So for those that want to participate and also don't have the time, this is a great way for just to put your money to work. Those that don't know what Patreon is, it's kind of a website that you support your favorite artists,
Yeah.
and anybody doing some types of projects, and you're just giving them the funds to basically keep doing what they're doing. So it's awesome to see. You also take donations through Venmo.
Yeah. I actually have a Venmo for the fridges now. So it's just, again, Free Food Fridge Albany on Venmo. I'm trying to separate my own name from everything.
Yeah.
So it kind of runs as its own entity. So it's not all.
That was like
me.
not even that long ago. So everything
Yeah.
was tied up with your name.
Yes.
But let's go into your nonprofit. Now, because of all these things, you've created a nonprofit.
Yes. So you guys are getting the exclusive. So my friend and I, Jade, Trash Kid Art, are starting a nonprofit called the Creative Good Incorporated. And that will be a way for us to continue to build equity within the Black and brown and queer community, with artists and people who want to do stuff that don't necessarily need to be a nonprofit, but like need the backing of a nonprofit. Because I know that that's been like a hang up for me just in the past year, has been like, oh, I have the opportunity to work with these people or this organization, but I'm not my own nonprofit, so I can't. And so it creates a barrier. But I've had like amazing people within the nonprofit world, help me in that way. But I want to be able to be like a fiscal sponsor for an organization that maybe only needs to do one project, but if they have the nonprofit behind them, then they'll be able to do more on a grander scale. And so we're like the people. It's like for the people. Like we're like for the people. It's not like we're creating a nonprofit so we're like getting all the money. And it's like, no, we're creating a nonprofit so that our people can do more, because that's what we want. And again, that's how you build equity.
Do you have some visions for this nonprofit? Because you said Free Food Fridge is just one part of it.
Yeah. So Amplified Voices will be sort of like under that umbrella, which is Jade's project. And I think it's going to operate sort of similar. So like Amplified Voices won't be a nonprofit. It'll be just like the program off of the nonprofit. And we want to work with like the youth. Like Jade is like a great example of like how to work with the youth and how to engage the youth. And so it's been really great to see her like create this program and to have to call in all the kids and like other people who want to work with kids. Like we're giving people like an easy way to work with the community. And so it's just like join us. Like we're going to work in all these different ways, whether it's food insecurity, working with the youth, art in general, and like, showing our stories and sharing our stories of what it is to be Black and brown and just BIPOC in general and queer in the community, and not just do it in a way where it's just like trauma porn, which is like anybody ever wants to see from us. And Jade has done such a wonderful job of like all the art that she does is like just fun, and it's Black people. Like I didn't grow up with that. Every book I read, every comic book I saw, everything I experienced as a kid was all white. And so we want to make sure that like the kids that are younger than us, the people who are going to be leading us in just a few years, are seeing themselves represented in work, in media, in fashion. And like it is such a huge thing. Like even thinking back when we were kids, like how many Black teachers did you have? I had one Black teacher in all of my schooling.
Probably.
And that includes, in college. I only went a few years, but I never had a Black teacher, and except for Mrs. Moore, Crystal Moore, she was my math teacher, and I'm still in touch with her now, and she's electric, and she made a huge impact on me. But like, there was no other representation, and so we need to represent the future, and we need to like tell the kids that they're the ones leading us, because they are. I'm like just in shock when I talk to like 15-year-olds. My little brother's 10 years old, and he says he's so smart. I'm just like, wow, like we need to be giving them a platform, because they're all like that. It's not just one. It's like they're all like that. They're all gonna lead us.
That's what I believe. Like kids are so creative, but we like put things down their throat, like all this information, teaching the wrong stuff, and then all of a sudden they're not creative, or they weren't encouraged to be creative, so they haven't tapped into that. Like,
yeah, and not even if you're not directly telling them, just like being that person. Like, I was on the cover
Showing
of
them
Time
the way.
magazine. My little brother's school was like bragging to the students about my little brother and me. Like, they were like bragging about us. And my brother was like, I'm really proud of you. And he's only 10 years old. And I'm just like, that to me is like, I'm done. Like, I can tap out. Like, I'm
Oh yeah, we need to talk about that. People that don't know, someone from Albany, Jammella, got on the cover of Time magazine.
Yeah.
And they wrote a beautiful story. Very cinematic, I guess, the way
Yeah.
they wrote it.
Yeah.
But for those that haven't read it, it can be found online or
Yeah.
still available in certain places.
Yeah, I've seen people have posted that it's still at the airport, but it's all like sold out. Someone actually, Peter Gannon, that runs the the United Way of the Greater Capital Region, he had to fight with someone on eBay for it.
But that's amazing. When I saw that, I was like, all right, we should be so proud, and we should really just tap in as a community, because someone from Albany, like out of anywhere else, got that kind of recognition. So that's something to be proud of. And this whole podcast is to just for, I guess, the restaurant to tap into the community.
Sure.
Like you were talking about, how we need to just participate as people, because I was in here and we started from like nothing, so we were constantly growing during the pandemic, but I felt way out of touch with what was actually going on, because we were growing, but so many people were suffering. They were going through so much. So and I spent all my time here, so I wasn't tapped into the community in that way. So I really want to reach out to people like yourself, all these other great organizations that are doing great things, and really share that with people, and then support however we can. And that's what this is about. So if you have any suggestions of certain people and just want to also tap into what Jammella is doing, the organization's doing. What was the Greater Whole nonprofit called again?
The Creative Good.
Creative Good. And they're starting that soon, so
Yeah.
be on the lookout for that.
Yeah.
So another thing I wanted people to be informed of was the whole police thing that was happening in Albany. I feel like a lot of people don't know about what's actually going on.
Yeah.
And you were there, live in action.
Yeah.
You want to just share some of what was going on?
Yeah, it's actually tomorrow. It'll be a month since like the big event happened, and I was there as just a support person, because the kids leading it were like Black, queer, trans kids. Like, they were like, young 20-somethings, and they're the ones like really leading the discussions, and just like really laying it out as, just like saying what it is, And so we were down there, and it was a peaceful protest, as they all are, and being loud and yelling is not peaceful, right? Like, that's still peaceful. There was no physical aggression. There was, none of the things that the media and the cops have painted it to be. So we were down there, and the kids, the people all kind of like went in front of the police station, and were just like trying to talk to the police, the sheriffs, the deputies, whoever was there at Arch Street. And Devin Anderson, which is the man that's in the white shirt, and he's been pictured a lot all over the media. Devin J. Anderson is his name. He is a sexual predator, and he hasn't been convicted, so he's not on the registry, which he should be. So he took a megaphone and like pushed it into someone's face, like into their face. And then like this whole, like the cops started beating people, and then that led to the Occupy. And so the Occupy happened in response to literally like watching police brutality. Like, the videos are disgusting. They pepper sprayed people. There are people who were just going to help other people not get hurt, got pepper sprayed. Someone got bear maced. Like, they attacked. What'd you say? Expired bear mace got sprayed in someone's eyes. Like, again, kids, like just the police taking out their billy clubs and like just hitting these like black kids. And then Amy Jones, who is like the community's auntie, she got pepper sprayed for just going to help someone, and that was really scary to watch because she's not even doing anything. And there's like a picture of one of the cops pepper spraying somebody, like pepper spraying her like a foot away from them, just like as if we were bugs, just like spraying. And so that's what led to the Occupy. And the Occupy, again, was peaceful. I mean, we're allowed to be there, but the cops, one day they just decided I forget what the deputy's name is, the chief? Hawkins, that's his name. Hawkins said he wasn't going to forcibly remove any of the protesters, and that was their legal right, and the mayor as well. They both said that. And word came in that they were going to come down and remove everybody, and that's when everything happened. So the cops came in all their riot gear, and they were pepper spraying, bear macing, hitting. They were beating people with clubs. They actually. I remember like this time last year when all the protests were happening in like Oakland, I remember seeing videos of people getting snatched off the street and thrown into cars, like actually being kidnapped. They did that to a couple of the people.
Really?
Yeah. Did that to a couple of the people at the protest, and people just disappeared. They didn't tell anybody where they were. They were lying about which police station they were in. And it was like all young people. It wasn't like people who have been used to it. Kids who have never had a rap sheet now have like 10 charges against them for nothing. They were trying to like paint them as like terrorists, and it's like nobody was doing anything. Like the cops are the ones that came in and caused all of the harm. And then people were like so many community members were bringing down food and resources.
Sorry. Hey, we're actually closed.
I'm Brian.
Oh, Brian? Oh, okay. Hey, Brian.
Nice to meet you, Adris.
It's our newest hire.
Oh, hello.
Hi.
We're on the podcast.
Oh,
I like your sweater. You look nice.
Thank you.
Yeah. Sorry about that.
I love it. And it's a black person. Great job, everybody.
I didn't even know, though.
Of course. Well, that's great. I mean, he looks really cool, so they look really cool. I don't know. So yeah, the cops came in and set the entire Occupy station on fire. And we had gotten there like just after that had happened. Sorry. We had gotten there just after it happened. So we didn't see like the initial, but we saw all the video footage. And that's where a lot of people's charges came from, was from that time. But they were just like yoking people up, like straight up like throwing them on the ground. White people were throwing their bodies in front of black people like exactly the way they should. And those kids are traumatized. And so all of the like protests and speak outs that have happened since then have been because of that. And they started the Occupy. It was like, they're calling themselves the Arch Street Abolitionists. And I've actually stopped trying to use the word activist, and I've been moving into abolitionist because that is the work I'm doing. But I've been like, I feel like people don't quite understand what that means, And so it's like, we want to defund the police completely. We want to abolish the police. Like that is what we want. And whether or not you use that part, that's okay. But it's like, it's important that like the demands of the people are met, and people aren't listening. And it takes us going on Instagram and Facebook being like, hey, we need people down here. We need more support. And it's like these movements fade away. They dissolve because people they're like, oh, well, we did it the first time. We went down there one time. And it's like, no, like this is where action starts to happen. These kids, they need to raise $10,000 because they all have legal fees now. And it's like, these are kids that are 21. I think the oldest one is 30. And that's like, he is 8 years older than the rest of them. Like everyone else is like 25 and younger. So there's like 20-year-olds, 21-year-olds, 22-year-olds. And now these kids that have like, again, a rap sheet that didn't have a rap sheet before. And so now they have a target on their back, no pun intended. It's like, they have, now they're going to go through life if they don't have the right lawyers. Like I know tons of kids who could have gotten off of felonies and not gotten felonies if they didn't have, or if they had proper legal support. And now they all have felony convictions, which is another part of this oppressive system. So it's really bad, and they need our support now more than ever when things are like a little bit quote unquote quiet, And it's really sad. So today I'm actually gonna going farming for a few hours after this, and once we come back, I'm gonna I want to do some like fundraising, some crowdfunding because we need to raise like literally like 10 grand. And I have some money that we fundraised, and so I can put it towards it. But these kids don't deserve to walk around with this like with convictions and felonies and things when like again they're the ones that are leading us. We should be listening to them. They're the ones experiencing it firsthand. I did not get directly affected. Like I wasn't like physically harmed. I wasn't, obviously emotionally, but like I wasn't the one down there. So like I'm a support person. So whether I'm there or not, whether I'm there to tell the story, like I'm ultimately a support person to support them. So I'm just here to amplify their voices and their needs.
Nice. So, yeah, we really need people to get involved. The food's coming, but yeah, the 6th ward right here is getting a new councilman, woman, council person, and they are focusing on a lot of them are on like police reform and just being community members. So it's really important to get involved and vote, I guess, for the right person.
It's really wild to be so disconnected from city politics for so long as I was, and in just the past year have gained a tremendous understanding of what city government is like and where we need support, which is everywhere, and like who the members of the city government that are getting involved. And Gabby Romero is one of the candidates for the 6th ward, and she's been out there. She's marched right next to me, and she's super supportive of the community. And she is a woman of color, and I fully support her.
Yeah, and it really doesn't take much effort to start getting involved. Like if you just look up a few things, reach out to just key people that are like really involved in the community, you can make change yourself. And I just speak out of experience because I didn't know anything going on, but just like doing a little bit of research, 10 minutes, doesn't take long. You can really start to understand what's going on, and I think that's very important for people to know. And that's why we have people like Jammella here. And
if you don't know your rights, you don't have any.
Exactly.
Like that's it.
I think they're bringing another one.
Oh,
no, this one.
Oh,
Oh,
thank you.
so right there on the side. Should we bring another? We're gonna just segue into our mukbang segment, and we talk more casually here, and then just enjoy the food. I can bring a table.
This is good. I think we're good.
No.
Yeah.
Sure.
Wow.
Uh-huh.
This is very good.
The texture of the bread, we weren't sure like what to use.
It's very good.
It's very good. It's very good.
Oh, she didn't flip the bread this time, because we've been testing it out to see if doing it on the other side it makes it a little crunchier. But
It's so good.
Yeah, it's perfect.
nice.
You can get all the crunching.
And you said you did the doula stuff. I didn't know what a doula was.
Yeah.
I had to look it up.
Yeah.
But is that something like you're very passionate about?
Yes. I'm passionate about the babies.
You want to talk about, because I always saw that attached with your name, like being a doula.
Yeah.
But I had no idea what it was. But so what does that involve?
So it could involve many things, but I mostly work with birth. So I'm a birth doula, so it's a support person. So I'm not like I'm considered sometimes medical staff, but I don't do anything medically invasive. So I'm honestly, it's like an emotional support person. And to be the what's the word? Like almost like like a medical interpreter. So like when Thank you. It's like a medical interpreter. So when you are in the hospital and you're like obviously in this like really stressful time for the birthing person, so not just women, birthing people, we have a like you can't really understand, when you're like fight or flight, you're like, I don't know what people are saying. I don't know what doctors are saying. They also talk in their doctor language and you have no idea what they're saying. So we are there to sort of like interpret and to, to explain to them what they mean or like what the implications are. And like, again, just the same way I just said about like activism, it's, if you don't know your rights, you don't have any. So it's like really giving, agency over your own body in the birth room, especially here in the West, this is the West, right? Yes.
Or the West.
Are we in the
East.
West? East. Where
Of
are we?
Of New York?
Compared to where?
Compared
Western
to
world.
what world are we in?
We're in the Western world.
Okay, just making sure. That was a trick question for everybody.
Yeah.
But we have like birth is like so much more. What's the word? Like, it's not as, I can't think of the term. It's just more of like a business. When you go into birth, it's like you go in, you do your thing, and then you leave. Where it's like in other countries and other places, birth is like a very big part of the culture, and so there's like, we are not having babies in the same way we do. It's like you go into the doctor, you get hooked up to all these things where you can have a baby without going to the hospital. Like people do it now. People are doing it right now, I had a home birth actually a week and a half ago. And it's like, you're just in a tub and nobody did anything except for the birthing person. And she did everything. And the midwife was there, and a midwife is like it's not a doctor, but it's like almost like a doctor of birth. And the midwife was there to check on the baby to make sure the birthing person was okay, and they're there to support after, but they're not removing the baby the way that they might in the hospital, And that's not to say hospitals are always bad, but oftentimes, especially for Black and brown women, the mortality rates for birthing people and babies are much higher, and the care is just as racist as any other sort of business that you go. So it's important that we're there to advocate. And so I got into birth work because I wanted to support people in that way. I wanted to be an advocate. So like truly at its core, you're an advocate for the birthing person.
And it's a certified position. So you have your training, professional training and stuff.
Yeah. And you don't technically have to be like certified to do it, but you should it's good to be certified. But again, you're not doing anything invasive. So it's like not like you're giving IVs or taking blood or, you're not doing any of that.
But you've got
stuff.
The training to understand how.
To understand exactly what's going on, what might happen, and how to act in a really tough situation.
That's really awesome.
Yeah.
I think that's like something a lot of people need, but they don't know that resource is kind of available to them.
I thought it was just for white people, literally. I thought only white people did it.
Because you see it in movies and stuff.
Yeah. I mean, seeing births on TV is like really cool, but like it's just white people most of the time. So I was trained with 25 other Black women to do this, like the training we did. And so now we have like 25 Black doulas in Albany, which is like really cool.
Nice.
And yeah, there's just like more advocacy circulated around birth, and we're really on like the cusp of entering in a new phase of birth. So that's been really cool because now there's all this other information coming out, especially like going beyond just mothers and like all birthing people, and more advocacy is like for trans people giving birth, for just everyone outside of just the language that we normally have. And books are not being made fast enough to be more inclusive. So that's another thing. It's like learning how to advocate for what we assume is like the status quo or what is regular. Mm-hmm. Because what is regular? What does that mean, Yeah. So it's cool to be working in birth at this point because it's like really we're stepping into a whole new world with birth, and it's really nice.
For sure. Nice. I don't want to disrupt you.
Oh, from the food.
Of your food. You guys want any drinks? Have you guys had Milkus before? Like a carbonated milk yogurt drink?
What?
We have a strawberry, banana, or peach right now.
Banana, strawberry, peach. I'm gonna try the peach.
You want to try any?
Oh, thanks.
I think I'm okay, thank you. I can't drink milk.
Have you ever had those like shots,
No.
like yogurt shot looking things? They're
Oh, it smells amazing.
it tastes like that but carbonated.
Yep, I love it. Oh. How about that? It tastes like candy. Wow.
Where do you guys go farm then?
Up in Hudson, near Hudson.
Round husband.
Nice.
Around Hudson.
That's just something you do as
For fun and for learning.
Yeah.
fun and learning to be able to farm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I've heard farming practices aren't the best in terms of the land. People really misuse the land,
Yeah.
and that's something I think needs some attention.
The farm that we have been working on they're friends of, they've grown to be friends of ours, but I met them through a yoga training I did over the pandemic. And they are, as far as I know and as far as I can tell, they're doing really good farming practices. They're not abusing the land. And I understand what you're saying. And that is like very prevalent, but they're doing a really good job and I'm grateful. And they're also like, they work with a lot of BIPOC farmers and people who want to start farming like us. My ultimate goal is to farm. So like the fridge project was like an immediate response, but I want to backtrack and I want to create the farms eventually and then bring the food to the people.
Makes sense. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, because even like the whole like veganism is getting like huge,
Yeah.
and I think not necessarily like people are refusing to eat meat, but they don't like the practices of how the meat is brought to you.
Mhm.
And that's even like farming in that sense is like,
All you gotta do is drive past a cow slaughterhouse. And,
yeah, and there's like hundreds in a small,
Yeah, they're like a
Shed.
veal farm. There's a veal farm in Hudson. And you just see like the little like, they like live in the little huts things. I don't know what they're called, but it's like really sad. And it's
because the
just like,
demand is so high.
yeah.
yeah.
I feel like,
But I
Humans
wonder how
don't
that
need it.
changes now that the pandemic has happened because like all these like fine dining restaurants are no longer existing.
Mhm.
So I wonder how that will change like the agriculture and like farming, animal farms and whatnot.
well, it affected dairy already. Like the
Yeah.
dairy industry just almost non-existent now,
Yeah.
which is very interesting. Nobody thought that would happen, but in 3 years, it took the whole industry out.
Mm-hmm.
And in terms of like restaurants, I don't know, it's a really weird time that we're living. I think we're gonna look back on this time and be like, this was happening, like, because we're in the middle of it, so we might not see or understand what's
The
happening,
impact of it, yeah.
understand it yet, but when we
Especially
look back-
like agriculture from other countries and like people are farming. All the farms that I have spoken to have gone up. Like they're all like in a better position than they were a couple years ago. Not like dairy farmers, but like more of like the agriculture. And they're doing. Everyone's like people I've talked to. I can't speak for everybody, but the people I've talked to are doing better in this moment because they are. People are learning how to cook again, and people are at home and they're not going out as much, and so like that's been pretty cool. But like there's just gonna like the things are not balanced right now. Like things are really out of whack.
yeah, it's
and-
really weird time because I feel like the restaurants were suffering, but now that like people are going out and about, it's like every restaurant that I talk to, they don't have like as many people, but the demand has increased like dramatically, like fast, that they're just like, whoa, we can't handle this. And it's just like, it's just weird. It's like Twilight Zone almost.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
nothing makes sense. Or like what people are saying is like not, what the media is saying is like maybe not
Accurate, of course
Like-
not. Yeah.
like what we're seeing.
It's also funny being like knowing so many restaurant people and like I work in a restaurant sometimes and our restaurant has been fine mostly, but people are expecting the same level of service now that they were a year and a half ago, and it's just like it's just different now. So like the whole industry is changing, and it's like we're in like a really weird period. So like people just need to like relax.
Yeah. On that note, I think we're gonna bring it to a close
Aw,
again.
so sad.
Yeah, if you guys ever want her to come back and like talk about certain things or like give us updates on what's
yeah.
happened, do you want to just talk about maybe bring it to existence about what you want to see in the next year, 2 years
Of what? Of the project?
of anything?
I want to see us, you and me, and our organizations and programs and restaurant, like our stuff come together, and to be able to keep amplifying other people and just like really making like a network that people can come to us as a resource together and separate and like continue to do the work and to share our stories. That's really all I want. Because it's not about like, you know, it just takes people hearing the story and being like, oh, okay. And like knowing that like, I literally had no idea I still have no idea what I'm doing, but like I'm doing it and everyone can do the same. And I'm sure the same thing with you. Like, you're just like, okay, we're going to try it. And if it works, it works. If it doesn't, it doesn't. And so continuing to share that specific story is like super important because it took me a long time to be like, oh, I can make a change. I don't have to jump through all these hoops. Just like you said, it takes like $1, whether it be money or, hey, I have this contact information. Here you go. Like any little thing that you have can help anybody. So
Exactly.
continuing to see that and working more together.
That's awesome. So how do we become a sponsor? I want our logo to be on your page.
You're a sponsor already. I'll just put you on. What do you mean?
No, but when I started getting more into the research, because I didn't want to come here like not prepared or talk about anything, but I was like, man, because I saw the certain stuff that you guys were putting in the fridge. I was like, man, we could easily buy the crates of like eggs at least.
Oh yeah.
Because at first I was like, how can we contribute? Like if we do prepped food, would that work? I
Definitely.
Was just like, yeah. But
It could be like a case of
it's like drinks or anything.
anything, like anything. I just don't. We try not to put soda in there, and we try not to put like too many sweets. But
Like healthy stuff, yeah.
yeah, like on the healthier side. I mean, it could be anything like Delaware Supply, which are great friends of mine. Actually, the ones who gave me the connect for Lowe's, which is how I got the fridges. My friend Lauren and Colin, they're the ones that own it. They were doing for like a few months. They were just ordering extra food from like Restaurant Depot or like one of their wholesaler distributors and putting it in the fridge. So it doesn't even have to be anything necessarily specific to your business, and it can if you want to do prepared food. But you can put whatever you want in there. So you just tell me.
Okay.
Yeah.
That sounds
And there's
good.
going to be a fridge right there. So like you just bring it
go
over.
right after when we unload here.
Yeah.
Go fill it up.
Yeah. And it's fun because then again, people like to ask questions and like, oh, what's that? That's really cool to see when people are like, oh, what is that thing you're putting in there? I've never seen that before. And then you get to tell them and be like, this is how you cook it. Or like, this is what it tastes good with. This is what it tastes like. And so then you're creating another narrative of like, oh, now you're expanding a 10-year-old's mind about food that they never would have picked up before.
Exactly. That's awesome.
Yeah.
And I'll make sure to put all the links, the articles, Time article, the Patreon, the websites, and everything in the description. So make sure you check that. We won't go over all of them. But again, that was Jammella Anderson. And thank you.
Thank you so much. This is fun.